All right, our next speaker comes from just a very distant, obscure, small organization called PragerU. Jill Simonian has been doing a fantastic job leading a lot of their content creation for children, for education, for parental rights, and I will let her get right into it on all of this. So please make her feel welcome, Jill Simonian.
Hi, everybody. All right. Okay, so, does anyone need their phone? I don't know who this belongs to. It's here. Is this for you? Oh, this is me. Do I leave it here? Oh, see that? Okay. So, I'm being recorded from all angles. It's very, somewhat terrifying, but it's okay. First of all, good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here today, and I want to thank all of you for coming because I no pressure, but I'm just going to say it outright. First of all, thank you, George, and Protect Our Kids in this organization. But no pressure, but this is an extremely exclusive group. Do not let it be lost on you that everyone in this room, I've been sitting back there listening, and the limited information that I've seen is so valuable, so important to just really take and, for lack of a better word, be a disciple of in your own schools and districts. So thank you for being in this exclusive room. I'm happy to be here. I am calling this Restoring Our Republic One Classroom at a Time. And I usually kick off, I'm Jill Simonian. George introduced me. I'm one of the co-founders of PragerU Kids. I'm the face of PragerU Kids on many of the younger programming for children. And I usually start this presentation by asking how many of you have heard of PragerU. Is there anyone who has not? I'll say, is there anyone who has not heard of PragerU? Okay, then I'm going to skip all of the formalities if you're already familiar with what we do. Have you heard of PragerU Kids specifically? So is there anyone who has not heard of PragerU Kids and who does not know about? Okay, great. So then we're going to talk about it. Today I am here to give you strength and conviction. I'm here to strengthen you, to give you the free resources. First of all, gratitude for all of you. We know that teachers are on the front lines. I am not a credentialed teacher, but my sister is currently in California. My mom was, my grandma was. So I grew up with all the teacher classroom stories. I should have gotten my credential, but I just didn't. I'm here instead. Our challenge right now, as we know in education, is the whole question of education versus indoctrination, right? Lots of contentious conversation and commentary about all of that. Patriotic education versus propaganda. Raise your hand if you've ever been accused of pushing forth propaganda. Wrongfully accused of pushing propaganda. I'll say this, wrongfully accused of pushing propaganda. Patriotic education. If you take nothing else with you today, know that patriotic education is not propaganda. Patriotic education, which the current education leaders in the White House administration, now patriotic education is something that they are so dedicated to at this moment of time. I was at the White House at an event launching what we are calling our Road to Liberty digital museum series that features the Founding Fathers. I was there in June, and I was very lucky to be able to sit in on a committee meeting for education. And patriotic education is something that is being focused on in the best way possible. And patriotic education, in case you want to spread this to anyone who might think otherwise, is teaching e pluribus unum, out of many one. Patriotic education teaches us to question the status quo. It teaches us to think critically. It teaches us to know that America's founding fathers, even though they were imperfect men, also happen to be brilliant minds who literally signed their name on a death warrant, our Declaration of Independence, so that we could have liberty and diversity of thought and diversity of discussion and all of these things. And whether or not anyone wants to admit it or not, patriotic education, as I have frankly learned through many of our own PragerU Kids shows and episodes, patriotic education also includes that our nation was in fact founded on Judeo-Christian biblical ideals.
So whether or not anyone wants to admit that, our nation was founded with biblical ideals, and that is part of patriotic education. So let's go ahead right now. What's happening? There we go. Okay. So I'm gonna, you know what? For those of you who do not know exactly what PragerU Kids is, let's go ahead and take a look at this video, if it plays.
PragerU Kids, what is it? Engaging supplemental resources aligned to academic standards for kindergarten through 12th grade. Free videos with lesson plans and worksheets that teach U.S. and world history.
From igniting the American Revolution.
Nicholas Copernicus at your service.
Civics.
Separation of church and state.
That is the correct answer. So here are
Global issues.
I'm remaining 100 miles from China's coast.
Financial literacy.
Federal income.
Organizations losing a total of $10.3 billion.
And character development.
Image minus reality.
Downloadable and hard copy books that highlight presidents, change makers, community helpers, and American holidays and landmarks. Knowledge-based cultural literacy rooted in American values. Created by educators, built for classrooms and students. Find everything you need at PragerUKids.com.
So everything, with the exception of if you are moved to purchase our hard copy books, everything is free. It literally costs nothing. You go to the website, PragerUKids.com. You can download the worksheets, the lesson plans, watch the videos for free. Nothing is behind a paywall, with the exception of if you want to purchase a hard copy book for like your kindergarten classroom to read aloud. I want to start, let's go to the next slide. I want to just briefly let you know that, well, let me back up. Keep it on this slide. But let me say this. All of our materials, we have a team of about 30 people at PragerU Kids. Credentialed teachers, educators with masters in history. So everything that we create is standards aligned, federally and statewide. These are the 10 states so far that have partnered with us to offer our curriculum as non-mandatory supplemental materials. Nothing is required. We are now beginning to work with individual school districts here in California, so have hope. Let's go to the next slide. These are all of our shows. We have more than 1,200 resources, videos, worksheets, lesson plans for free. We have hard copy books included in that 1,200 number. Again, free if you download them. They are, most of them, downloadable. This is for kindergarten through 12th grade. We have values-based entertainment with the K through 2nd graders. We have U.S. and world history. We have state history with Unboxed USA. My own sister in Central California used Unboxed USA episodes during her 5th grade state history units. She's one of the only school districts that is non-unionized, so that was a plus. How to is good character, life skills around the world. It is global issues. This is for the bottom row is for middle school and up. We have civics, street smarts, a game show on the street, and cash course, financial literacy. And I want to capitalize on our civics education and our financial literacy. Because if you are in situations where you're frequently talking to folks from any end of the political spectrum, and I hate even saying that word political spectrum, because what we do at PragerU Kids is, it's based on objective truth, it's based on biblical values. So, however, when you are talking to folks on either end of the political spectrum, the two commonalities that each side claims as very, very important and something that they want are civics education, how our system of government works, and financial literacy. So these two subjects also happen to be the subjects that are least taught in schools across the nation. Yet they are the great unifiers for people of opposite perspectives, which we think is extremely interesting. So again, everything is standards aligned. I want to go to the next slide to show you, okay, we've got our books, let's go to the next slide. I usually do this presentation in a 30-minute period, so that's why I'm skipping. Here, I want to capitalize on something that is so important and immediately relevant for some things that you might be doing in your classrooms right now. Part of our civics education free resources that we offer is this Constitution crosswalk. So we know that schools receive federal funding and they are also required to hold education about the Constitution. September 17th, mark your calendars. This is our opportunity to help restore the Republic through Constitution education. Civics, a grand unifier of subjects, right? September 17th. Instruction should include the duties and powers of the three branches of government, the amendment process, the Constitution's role as the supreme law of the land. This Constitution crosswalk that is like a pretty little picture here, let's flip the slide, please. What it is, and I printed this out, it is this document, with my one hand I'm just going to flip, it's several pages containing a list of, here's an example here, the different parts of the Constitution and civics knowledge that every single student, no matter what their families, parents, teachers, political affiliation happens to be, should learn. I've plucked this page from our Constitutional Crosswalk teaching symbols of the United States. Every single one of these links in this free document you can find online. You go to prageru.com, you type in Constitutional Crosswalk, it's a digital document, and the links are clickable directly to our videos that range between 8 minutes to 12 minutes in length of civics education. We have it broken down to, here's symbols of the United States, but we also have, I want to take examples here for you so you can actually see in real time. The Constitutional Convention and Civic Dialogue. We have also separation of powers, overview of the U.S. Constitution. It's all there. Let's go to the next slide. Here's Otto's Tales, our story time show associated with our books, values, patriotism. I'm the storyteller. Let's keep flipping. This is for kindergarten. This is for 3rd through 5th grade Constitution resources. This show that you see here is part of our series called Leo and Layla's History Adventures. The brother and sister travel back in time. They meet all sorts of characters. You may have seen an episode of Leo and Layla recently highlighted in the news regarding Christopher Columbus, wrongfully accusing PragerU that we are somehow minimizing slavery. It's a very serious claim. I would laugh if it wasn't so egregiously wrong. This is that serious. However, we have worksheets, and I want to find it here for you so you can see worksheets and lesson plans that go directly with each of our episodes. So I very rarely recommend that people, during presentations I give, go on their phones and start hopping around online. But in this case, you're absolutely welcome. I invite you to go to your phone right now, and you can type in pragerukids.com and scroll through all of our videos to see what I'm talking about. Underneath every single video we have is a lesson plan, which you can see here, and a worksheet. And here's what they look like. They're free, downloadable for your classroom. This particular episode is Madison and Montesquieu talking about checks and balances, which is one of the episodes highlighted on our Constitutional Crosswalk. If this is something that interests you, to share with some of your students in classrooms during Constitution Week. Let's go to the next. This is a video. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip it. That's okay. That was Montesquieu. So, back to the Constitution crosswalk for middle and high school. Again, we have kindergarten through high school. Materials for kindergarten through high school. Federalism, separation of powers. This is just examples of what you can find in this document. Let's go to the next slide. Because, and here's an example of street smarts, the episode. It's about 12 minutes in length total. It has worksheets and lesson plans. So this is the type of thing where in your classrooms, you can show these videos, go to the worksheet and the lesson plan to reinforce it. I want to say one thing that I forgot to say in the beginning. Academic freedom. Academic freedom, okay? My sister would tell me stories about in the classroom, and again, I'm not a teacher. I teach Sunday school every week with 30 eyeballs looking at me, and I'm teaching about the Bible and Bible stories. However, I know that I am not a teacher in a classroom, but every single one of my teacher friends has told me in confidence and with great joy, oh yeah, we just look things up on YouTube half the time because we're not given the tools to be able to know how to teach certain subjects, so we are looking things up on YouTube. And it's like, you're kidding. And she and other teachers, many other teachers, more than I can count, have certified this is in fact true. They are not given the tools, yet these guidelines to teach the Constitution and financial literacy, they are all outlined educational standards for most states, if not all. Constitution Day is a federally mandated day that students are supposed to learn about the Constitution if the school receives federal funds. So these are things that all teachers are supposed to be teaching about if they're not given the tools. We have the tools here. They are all standards aligned. Every single one of them created, written, produced by credentialed educators. Let's go to the next slide. I'm throwing a lot at you, but I wanted to just make this something that was very helpful. Let's go to the next slide. We're not going to play these videos, only in the interest of time. You can go online and play them and enjoy them. The next slide, I believe, is financial literacy.
A game show on the streets.
Oh, there's the clip. Sorry. That's okay. So the next slide, I'm going to go ahead and just keep talking about financial literacy. Everything we've done for the Constitution continues with financial literacy.
Oh no!
That's an example of Street Smarts. These are the episodes of Street Smarts. Cash course, here we go. Okay, so financial literacy now required in many states and essential for graduation. Cash course is our series that teaches students real-world money skills that they will actually use. This is just a few. Assets and liabilities, supply and demand, accounting, capital gains, bankruptcy. You can read them all yourself. We have, similar to the Constitution crosswalk, on our website for free. If you go to PragerU.com and you search Financial Literacy Guide, there is, and we'll ask you to enter your email, and then it emails you the thing straight away, free, like you'll get it the next second. There's a guide similar to this, several pages long, with clickable links to each Catch Course episode and what subject it coincides to for teaching financial literacy. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, this is a video. I'm going to skip it. Only in the interest of time. Okay, and then we are at the end. I want to share with you something that we are working on. So we're all California. Everyone here is a California educator. Is there anyone from out of state? Okay, so California now is seeking to include financial literacy curriculum in schools across the state. I'm going to show you what we're working on. PragerU in California Financial Literacy Alignment. This is an alignment document. We're working on this. And again, it cites in these documents the ed codes requiring financial literacy for graduation, the required course topics, and the videos that we have created that directly align with those standards aligned. So this is what we're working on. And we're very excited about it. And is it going to be in California schools? We have absolutely no idea. But Mary's saying yes. We're working on this. And the reason why I share this with you is purely because I know how, I imagine how challenging it is for you day in and day out. The lady who shared her story from LAUSD, we sit here and we listen to these stories and our heart breaks. Was it, I can't remember, it was you. Our heart breaks. And it's terrible that you, in a district that claims to want to include everyone, that everyone is welcome, it's sad. And under a banner of inclusion, we are creating resources that are free for educators to use under a banner of reasonable academic freedom, standards aligned, completely positive and wholesome for children. Let's visit the Statue of Liberty. I mean, very polarizing. So the point of this presentation, for me coming here today, is again, to give you strength in your own conviction, to teach in your classrooms the fundamentals of patriotic education, to know that patriotic education is not propaganda. Do not let anyone fool you or trick you or bully you into thinking otherwise. You are the front lines of educating this next generation to genuinely have the potential to restore our republic. And that famous tale of Benjamin Franklin exiting the Constitutional Convention and people outside saying, what kind of government are they creating in there? And Benjamin Franklin's famous words saying, a republic, if you can keep it, it's on us. We invite you to be the soldiers in our army at your discretion, with your conviction and faith in God. And we thank you for all that you're doing. And we ask that God bless you all, that God bless all of us, God bless America. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. And again, you can visit us at pragerukids.com, see what works for you, see what you think might fit under those academic standards that require constitutional instruction and financial literacy instruction especially. Thank you so much.
All right, we got a couple more speakers left, and the next presentation, hopefully everybody in here has already left the union, but if you did not leave the union yet, this is going to be a presentation by David Schmus from Christian Educators. David, would you please come up? And he's going to be talking to us about why and how you can leave the union and a much better alternative.
Thank you so much, George. What a delight it is to be here. And I know that many of you are thinking about lunch already. And you've come to my town, so I got a hot tip for you. As soon as we get out of here, and I'm going to try to go super fast so we can get to lunch maybe a little sooner than you expected. But if you head down to Yorba Boulevard, turn left, go east about a couple miles, Blue Agave, best restaurant around. So when you get out of here, that's the hot tip. Before I get in, I'm going to kind of parachute into the middle of my presentation and for the sake of time. But before I get in there, I just want to say a couple things. One is, I know we're all, I think we're all grieving the loss of Dr. James Dobson yesterday. You hadn't heard he passed away. And wow, what an impact he made on my parents, on our child raising. And I just wanted to take a moment to honor him and his legacy. And just thank you, Lord, for someone that modeled well for us how to bring the Christian worldview into the public square as well. And so we're all indebted, of course, to Dr. Dobson. And I'd also like to share a little bit of my own journey. I was a public high school teacher, not far from here, in a town called Hacienda Heights. I taught AP US History and Government. I got to teach at the school that I graduated from. So that was super cool because my Letterman jacket worked on Spirit Days and all that kind of stuff. But around 5 years in, I learned that there was something going on at my school other than simply me and my students and the curriculum and what I saw God doing. I was advising their Christian club and all that kind of stuff. About 5 years into 2005, my union decided they were going to spend $20 million of teacher union dues to oppose a ballot initiative that would have defined marriage between a man and a woman. I don't know if any of you were around back in 2005 remember that. But the CTA spent $20 million of our dues to oppose that. And I thought, man, this isn't even about school or education. This is a moral issue, and you're on the wrong side of it. And I got to get out. And so I got out. It was harder back then because of now we have the Janus case, woohoo, right? But it was a little harder back then, but I got out. I joined Christian Educators because I wanted liability insurance. I wanted protection. I wanted all the kind of professional association, benefits. So, but didn't think much about it, honestly. Well, I won't tell the rest of the story, but how I got involved in Christian Educators and eventually became the executive director. But nonetheless, that did happen, and I thank God for that. But I'm gonna kind of, I haven't told a whole thing about woke religion, but that kind of point has already been made. So I'm just gonna parachute in here to kind of the middle of things. By the way, we were mentioning earlier about 85 and these PRISM trainings. By the way, who supported the bill to make that reality? Be a big surprise, right? The teachers unions, of course they did. And spent some of your money to do so, I'm sure, or our money. So Christian educators often belong to unions because they value their local unions. I a little bit kind of fast forward the part about some of the national unions. I think this crowd already understands the evils of the NEA, the AFT. I don't think I need to belabor that point given the time we have. But here's one of the objections I often get. What about my local? Right? They negotiate my contract. These are my colleagues. How do I navigate kind of the being ostracized or shunned, those kinds of things? And I will say this. I taught for 10 years, not being a member of my local. I had great relationships with them, but I know that's not always the case. You can't control what other people do, but you can bring hope and joy and love, because we have Christ living in us, into your school, right? And not bring contentiousness and anger for the sake of those things. Sometimes there's a time to stand up for something, obviously. But if we bring hope and love and joy into our schools, often we can curtail and look for ways to benefit your school. We can curtail some of those reactions. But I want to say to those people, hey, what about local? Well, do you know where your local union dues go, or where your union dues go? Well, you might be surprised. That very little amount of your union dues go to your local. For example, according to the CTA's website, this is the dues for 2025-26. 858 of your annual dues goes to CTA. Another 219 goes to the NEA. Well, that's a total of $1,077. Most California teachers are paying about $1,300 a year now, believe it or not. It's a whole lot of money. So if you're paying $1,300 in total dues, only $223 of those dues goes to your local. That's only 17%. So realize the things that some people are thankful for, the things that some people appreciate, that's only 17% of your union dues. Okay? So maybe try this. Get out of the union, keep your $1,300, give yourself a 1 or 2% raise, right? And then if you want, well, here's a trick. Write a $223 check and hand it to your local union leader. Okay? And say, hey, I value the fact that you negotiate my contract. If you do, not all do, but some do. I value the fact that you're here for me. Here's a $223 check. But guess what? The next day they'll walk back and they'll hand it back to you. Because they can't take it, because if they did take it, it would accept the principle of local-only membership, which they cannot do. Right? And so, they'll sometimes say, oh, if you leave, you're being disloyal, you're a scab, you're not doing your fair share. Well, wait a minute. Who created the system that says I have to make a $1,000 donation to the Democratic Party, essentially, right, to be a teacher? You created that system, right? That's the unfairness. Don't tell me that my $223 is not being unfair. And then take that $220 and do something cool for your school. Fund a scholarship or buy donuts for the teachers. I don't know. But do something kind with it and show that, hey, I'm here to support what we're doing here in my school. All right. So in California, less than 20% of your dues go to your local. What does the other 80% do? I don't need to go through all this because you already know this stuff. But for example, in 2024, the CTA made an $830,000 contribution directly to the Democratic Party. If you look at a couple years ago, when we tried to recall the governor. The CTA made a $1.8 million donation to the Governor Newsom, protect his governorship campaign. So that was straight out of union dues.
Can you go back?
Sorry. Yep.
One more. Thank you.
Yeah, this is I'm trying to save time. I was going to read this, but I know George would appreciate me winding up a little quicker, so I'm trying to do that. All right. And there's the anti-recall contribution. The CTA contributed $250,000 to teachers' union dues to help pass Prop 1 in 2022, which enshrined legal abortion in our state constitution. That's an issue I know I care near and dear about that, near and dear to my heart. What about the national? Well, of course, I think you know about the national. You notice, to find a year in which the AFT contributed less than 99% of their contributions to Democrats, you've got to go all the way back to 2004. And then it was 98%. Okay. Kind of crazy one-sided. This, even though, guess what? Edweek did a survey in 2017 that said 57% of public school educators are either Republican or independent. Yeah? And this is the percentage they're sending to Democrats. Okay? And this, the NEA, same thing. Okay? Numbers aren't quite as high, well, until recently they are. But nonetheless, your numbers are disproportionately supporting a one-sided political system. As someone called the machine earlier, I think that's a good label. Well, someone said, wait a minute, my union president says I can opt out of the political part. Have you ever heard that one?
Yes.
What a joke. All right. Sometimes on union membership forms, there's this little checkbox. And it refers to usually a local political spending, like on local candidates, maybe school board, maybe local, Congress, or maybe local assembly or Senate, and it's usually like $15, $20. It's like some minuscule amount, right? This is pathetic. This is not all that they spend on the political part. Okay, this is just a little local thing that they have to do for legal reasons. What they leave out, and this is according to the Wall Street Journal, what they leave out when they say, "Oh, you can opt out of the political part." They leave out all super PAC spending. Okay? NEA AFT spent $43 million on super PAC spending in 2020. They get out the vote drives and voter education. So those cards they send to your house to tell you how to vote, which of course you and I know how not to vote, right? Those are paid for by your union dues. Salaries of staff that are 100% political, and the national and state unions have hundreds of these kinds of employees. Their entire salaries are, according to the unions, non-political, but they are 100% political and 100% paid for by union dues. Contributions to allied organizations, groups like the Priorities USA or the Center for American Progress. They're these shadowy leftist organizations that basically funnel money from the teachers' unions to the causes they really want to care about. I documented a few years ago this is how they get money to Planned Parenthood. Right? They don't want to give money directly to Planned Parenthood. That looks a little too bad, even for the unions, although the AFT did it once. But what they do is they send it to groups like that, and then they send it to Planned Parenthood. Right? And that's how they do this kind of organization work. And then finally, issue spending, ballot initiatives, and so forth. All of that is political. All of that is paid for 100% by union dues, and you cannot opt out of it. Okay, so despite what anyone tells you, if you're a teacher in a union, you're paying for this. Okay? All right. So we believe at Christian Educators that Christian public school educators in America contribute over $600 million to state and national unions each year. George Barnett says that almost half of the nation's public school teachers say their faith is important to them, and they go to church at least once a month. Okay? Well, you and I both know if those teachers were on fire, spirit-filled, and boldly living out as ambassadors for Christ, our schools would look very different, and our nation would look very different, right? Okay? But nonetheless, we believe there's about 1 million Christian public school teachers who are members of unions in this country. Okay? And if you look at how much they're paying in state national unions, a conservative estimate is that $600 million is being paid over by Christians to the state and national teachers unions who are using that money to undermine everything that we believe in and stand for in our schools and in our nation. What if we could just stop, right? What if that $600 million could just stop? By the Christians in our public schools not being part of teachers unions, what a different world we would live in. And so I would argue, especially here in California, woke religion, and I kind of skipped over that point, but you guys know what I mean by that, I think, is being established in our schools, paid for by the tithes of our public school teachers. And I know it takes courage. I was on to Jessica Tapia earlier, and she said, you know what? There was a Sunday I went to Jack Gibbs Church, and I heard him say, you know, courage is a sin. Or I'm sorry, cowardice is a sin. You don't usually use that strong of a language when I talk to teachers, because I try to get them to join us and be nice and all that. But the fact of the matter is that if cowardice, lack of courage or fear is the only reason you're not leaving a union, come on, right? Let's stop being part of the problem and be part of the solution. All right? All right, so questions that arise. Don't I have to join the union? Will my pay and benefits be affected if I leave? And can't I just belong to my local? I already answered the last one. Do I have to join? Absolutely not. The Janice case took care of that. And will my pay and benefits be affected if I leave? Absolutely not. You are entitled to all the same things in your contract. Your contract still applies to you 100%, and nothing can be taken away from you by leaving that union. Okay? So, no, the answer to the question is no. I will say this: in California, the CTA does offer a supplemental disability policy from the standard, okay, that they sell to their members, okay. You do lose that, because that's not a benefit from the district. That's something that you buy from the union, okay, just so you're aware of that. But there's other sources, of course, of disability policies, right? All right. So, anyway, the good, I mentioned the Janice case. The Janice case means that you have a constitutional right not to support organizations that you don't agree with as a condition of your employment. So, how can we help you? Since 1953, Christian Educators has encouraged, equipped, and empowered Christians in our public schools. We have members in all 50 states, and we want to be your professional association. Let me tell you how that works. We are a biblical alternative to unions. We offer a $2 million professional liability policy as opposed to the $1 million policy from the unions. And by the way, the reason that it's important to have these coverages is because you as a teacher are a licensed professional. Like a CPA, like a doctor, like a therapist. You have a license to maintain. And one thing I love that our coverage does is that, let's say you are accused of something at your school, not only will our coverage pay for a local attorney to represent you, okay, but then see what happens at schools often is that there's an investigation at your school, and let's say you're exonerated. Well, sometimes what happens is that information gets forwarded to the state teacher and commission on teaching credentialing. Then they do an investigation, and they decide if your credential is going to get revoked.
Wow.
Well, our coverage also allows you to have an attorney to go up to the CDC and defend you there. Your union will not do that, okay? But we will. So $2 million professional liability insurance, job action protection, that's that local attorney to represent you, either before your district or at the CTC. And then finally, our most popular option is unlimited legal and educational consultation. What this means is that we have a team of experts. Almost all our former superintendents, all of the educational consultants are former superintendents, and we have a lawyer as well. And so we have this team of consultants that's available to you on a full-time, a limited basis. So if you are a member of ours, you can call, you can get wisdom, not only expert wisdom from these folks who have years of experience in the educational system, but you'll get prayer, godly counsel, a biblical worldview. You know, when you go to a union rep, typically that union rep has maybe been to a few workshops and might have a couple of years of experience, right? They don't often know what they're talking about as much. Okay, when you call us, you get a former superintendent who has been on all the sides of this table, right? He's been in all the roles that we do in our public school system. And so we advise you in that way. I think it can provide much better service because the union isn't really incentivized to give you good service because they kind of have a monopoly. We call you back right away. So we try to do that because we love our members and we need our members. Okay. So if you go to christianeducators.org/unions, you will find a lot more information about this question of unions and how to get out. There's a process there for generating the letters that you need to send to get out of your union. Let's talk briefly about a quote from one of our members. I just love the leadership. Every time I have been called about an issue, the response has always been given with a loving spirit. Even if someone has done something wrong or illegal, they always encourage a loving response. I appreciate the heart of Christian educators. They aren't negative or trying to go after people. They're just trying to do everything with my kindest way possible. I love that my heart can rest and trust in CE. Yeah, we want to carry the heart of Jesus into our schools. Okay, and that can look different at times. Sometimes that means, hey, we need to accept accountability for our own behavior. Sometimes some of our members, we've actually said, I think maybe you need to go apologize to your principal. We've said that to our members, believe it or not, because we think that's something that is important to uphold. But there's sometimes we got to take a stand. We filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration over Title IX. Because as was said earlier, they were trying to change the meaning of Title IX to be about gender identity rather than sex. Of course, if Title IX is about gender identity rather than sex, it is no longer about sex. Right? It doesn't protect women anymore. It just protects people trying to become, pretending that they are women, right? So we filed a lawsuit. We were co-plaintiffs on the case with 6 states and an athlete, a female athlete from Connecticut. And together with Alliance Defending Freedom, we got a favorable ruling in the district court. We won on January 9th. Okay, just this year. Okay. Thank you. And because of that ruling, the Trump administration has been able to hit the ground running with Title IX enforcement in places like Maine and Minnesota and California. Right? If not for that ruling, Trump would have had to have spent 2 or 3 years using the administrative rulemaking process to undo the rules that Biden did. Right? And so we're so grateful we were able to do that and be part of that case. And so, but the Spirit leads, and sometimes the response is, got to fight and file a lawsuit, and sometimes the response is, God gives us some creative other ways to solve the problem. Let's talk about opt-out windows briefly. California is the CTA union was a little devious how they designed this opt-out unit. So when the Janus case was coming down the pipe in 2018, what the union did, so I've been just after the case, I'm not sure of the timing, but what they did was that they had all their people in California sign these recommitment cards to the union. And the bottom of that recommitment card is this fine print, okay? And it says that your opt-out window is from 30 to 60 days prior to the anniversary date of this document. Okay, so let's say they gave you that document when you came back to school, like August 20th. Guess what? That means your opt-out window is in July. Okay? Yeah, real helpful, right? When you're not really thinking about this stuff. So the only way to usually know when your opt-out window is to go ahead and go on our website, go to christianeducators.org/unions, follow the process for generating the letters you need to send to your district and send to your local union to opt out. And their response will tell you what your opt-out window is. Unfortunately, we're kind of stuck there. There is a Supreme Court case, potentially. It's called the Klee case, as I recall, that is challenging these opt-out windows. But up until now, these opt-out windows have been upheld in the courts. So we're kind of stuck with this system. So if you know California teachers, tell them, send in those letters ASAP, because their opt-out window possibly may have already announced. Right? They have to wait a whole other year to opt out. Now, that being said, you don't have to wait a whole other year to join Christian Educators. Okay? Because you can join us and still be part of your union. That's not a problem. So we'd like to talk to you about what it looks like to join Christian Educators. Let's take Marie and Abigail, okay? Marie joins the NEA CTA, and over a 30-year career, pays $1,300, pays nearly $40,000 to further the union agenda over her career, okay? During that time, is protected by only $1 million in professional liability insurance. And she is protected at union discretion. I haven't made this point yet, but the union can opt out of protecting her in a whole host of ways. If they don't like what she did, or if they think that she's on the wrong track. Okay. On the other hand, Abigail, she says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to Christian Educators. And so she said at $259 a year, which are our yearly dues, okay, she saves over $1,000 every year. See that 1% raise, or maybe for some that's a 2% raise, or somewhere in between, right? And so now Abigail's shrewd, right? So she invests that money, $1,040 every year at 8% return. She's got $127,000 in retirement. And what's your union worth to you? Worth $127,000? Okay. Probably not. All right. And during that time, she was protected by $2 million of professional liability insurance, and she supported the ministry that furthers her mission. Okay? And I don't have time to tell you about all the stuff that we do. There was a whole section I had about all the ministry that supports. I'll have that conversation with you sometime later, but other member benefits, prayer support, Teachers of Vision magazine, our award-winning magazine, we have it over on the table that I give to you as a gift before you leave today. We have our amazing daily devotionals. About 10,000 people around the country are getting our daily devotionals every morning. Our Ask the Principal Anything blog, and our Rise Up Summit, which is a free online conference for educators from a biblical worldview that happens every October. It's online, it's fully free, and love to have you engage with that as well. So anyway, we are thrilled to support you, and I've in the interest of time, I'm going to skip this part, but we would love to connect with you. Again, it's $209 a year. We offer a monthly membership, so it's about $23 a month. Huge savings, about 20% of the cost of the union dues you're already paying, or maybe you're already paying, or we're paying. And so we'd love to be your professional association. Again, we have members in all 50 states. We've been doing this since 1953. And would love to support you. So thanks for your time and blessings to you. Thank you for being here.
We're going to go on now to our last speaker, and I think most of us probably already know her. Doesn't need an introduction. Jessica Tapia. Jessica, please come up and share your amazing testimony.
Okay, thank you guys for being here. Truly, this is actually an answered prayer of mine when I went through one of the most horrific things of my entire life, which was being fired as a teacher for standing for my biblical worldview, really for being a Christian, and that was in my district's own words, and I'll tell you more about that later. I just remember thinking, if they can do this to me, they can do this to every Christian teacher across the nation. And I need to wave the red flag, and I need to tell them what's happening and embolden them and pray for them, bring them together. And so it's so cool this happened to me 2 years ago, but I'm still seeing God just honor the stand that I took and use my testimony in really powerful ways. I've gotten to be a part of 3 different documentaries telling my story, been on several different news channels. There's probably 200 articles on my story out there. Tons of podcasts, so I probably won't dive super deep into the detail of my story because you can go watch a podcast later. But I will tell you a little bit about it, the very important parts. I want to start, though, my lawyer, Julianne Fleischer, who spoke earlier, I love that she opened with that passage from Daniel. I remember I was on one podcast, and the host said, "Wow, Jess, that was your Daniel moment, and you passed." And Scripture says that when Daniel was lifted from the dead, there was no wound found on him. Why? And here's the key, and here's what I want to send you home with and back to the classroom with. Because he trusted in God. And when I went through what I did, never trusted in the Lord more in my entire life. I put it all out there. I surrendered to him like never before. And I got to see the fruits of doing that. And it makes me want to stay living in such a surrendered way because of what I got to experience. So really quick, my story in 2022, it was almost summertime. We're all excited. Literally last couple days of school. A principal walks into, I can't say classroom, I was a PE teacher, we were out on the blacktop, and she says, "I need to take you up to the office." And I was like, "What is this about?" And she couldn't tell me, so I'm just walking silently with her to the office. I will let you know I had an idea of what it was about because I had been receiving comments on my Instagram page that were nothing like I had ever received before. It appeared to be students who had found my page. And I am an outspoken Christian conservative page. I'm not a page that just posts pictures of my babies. I talk about things happening culturally from a biblical worldview. Well, students found my page and they took issue to that. And they sent several of my posts into the district, specifically because I was given screenshots of my posts from my administrators. They specifically went to my Jesus highlight and they screenshot like 7 of my posts in my Jesus highlight. So most of them were just scripture or quotes from prominent people of the faith. And I think that moment when my own posts were passed across the table to me is when I realized, or really I felt like the Holy Spirit said, you're entering spiritual warfare, stand firm. And I was like, okay, so, what's the problem? What's going to happen here? And they basically said, well, students feel discriminated by you, they feel disrespected by you, and there was 12 allegations suddenly made against me now that students knew where I stood biblically and culturally and I guess politically. So I have to read all these allegations, respond to them, and I was put off on paid administrative leave as they investigated me. And I remember just feeling terrible. Like I just wanted to flee from this and escape it. I'll actually tell you something really crazy. I applied for another job during this time because I wanted to just leave it all. I figured, hey, I can end this investigation myself. I'll find another job. And I got an interview, didn't get the job. God had a plan, and he was like, I'm not letting you escape this. I'm about to use you in a really big way. So essentially, I'm given an ultimatum from my school district. We're going to barely let you come back to work, but we're going to put you on a 45-day plan of assistance. I guess I needed help now. I don't know, because I post about Jesus. And so they also said, here are some directives that you need to follow coming back to work. Number one, you need to refer to students by their preferred pronouns and name and gender. I was like, okay, that sounds a lot like lying. And then this was not in writing, but they said, you also need to withhold that information from parents. And at that point, I looked them dead in the eye and I said, are you asking me to lie to parents? And they actually said yes, for student safety and privacy. And the list of directives goes on. They said I needed to stop posting about God and the Bible on my personal social media page in case students again looked me up and got offended by my personal views on my personal page. I literally felt like sitting I had 3 total meetings with my district, like they were just stripping my freedoms and my rights from me, which I'll admit I knew very little about. I was someone going through high school, public school, who didn't care about history. I was like, why do I need to learn this? I'm like so embarrassed now that I had that attitude because I'm now very grateful for our history and trying to catch up. But I knew this is not right, what I'm being put through. So I start contacting lawyers because I'm like, wait, I can't agree to these policies. I'm convicted by these. These would make me go against my religious beliefs and really dishonor the Lord, and that's my number one goal. And so I start contacting lawyers, and to be honest, they couldn't do much at that point because I hadn't been fired yet. But they could give me some advice and guidance, kind of like they've done here for you all today. And so really, I was like, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to go on stress leave and give it time, right? Wait on the Lord, just like Julianne shared. Patience and waiting on the Lord is so important. We want to make decisions so fast and on the dime, but I knew I was filled with a lot of emotions that might not guide me correctly. So I went on stress leave for 3 months, praying, seeking the Lord, seeking counsel, fasting, all the things. All I knew is I wanted to make the right decision in this. Do I go ahead and just agree to these things? Maybe not actually do them, but save my salary? Do I quit? Do I just walk away? Since a lot of Christian teachers are doing that. Or do I just speak up and simply say no? And I love to put it that way because it is that simple. And that's what I want educators to realize. It is that simple. It's as simple as saying, no, I cannot do these things you're asking me to do. I have my own rights. I have my own religious liberty and freedom of speech that I'm not going to violate to follow these policies that I know are actually harmful for students and parents. And so that's what I did. That's what the Lord led me to do. And because of that, I quoted scripture, broke down all the policies, put the scripture in accordance to the policy as to why I couldn't do it. They said, it sounds like you're asking for a religious accommodation, so come on in. And this was now my 3rd and final meeting, and we'll see if we can accommodate your religious beliefs. And I'm thinking okay, I think this is good because they have to do that. it's their duty to do that. I know I had, as a PE teacher, I had to accommodate, the beliefs of my students. If they were fasting, I couldn't put them out there for the mile. And so, sit through this meeting that really ended up being, the craziest thing I'd ever been through. Essentially, it felt like I sat in front of at a table of non-believers that were questioning me on my beliefs in the Bible to see if I was a legitimate believer, even though they obviously weren't, since they were asking me. I'm just like, this is the most bizarre thing in the world. But like Julianne said earlier, she's like, use it as an opportunity to share the gospel. Those are literally my words. Like I said that 2 years ago, because that is what that meeting felt like. It felt like I was teaching my administrators that there's sin in the world. And we need a savior, and we shouldn't go along with the sin. We should keep our eyes on the savior and live the way he's called us to. It was just crazy. Pinch me. But as I was in the den, in the furnace, I really felt the Lord with me like never before, guiding me, giving me strength when I felt so weak. Didn't know how we'd survive when I would lose my nearly $90,000 California teaching salary. So, end of meeting, I said I was not going to get into the story, and I totally didn't. I'm sorry. End of meeting, they sent me an email, and they said, in writing, we cannot accommodate your religious beliefs. Therefore, we are releasing you from employment, official January 31st, 2023. And I was like, am I really reading this? This is crazy. And they put it in writing. Yeah. All right, lawyer. So that is when I found Advocates for Faith and Freedom. And I was referred to them by Charlie Kirk and Pastor Jack Hibbs. One of the just amazing things God allowed me to do, and just doors he's opened, was one night at church. Charlie Kirk was coming. It was a Wednesday night. Pastor Jack that night had posted my story because it went crazy viral, headlines, all the things. And I went to church and I showed someone who was like a campus guard or whatever. I was like, hey, Pastor Jack, I've never spoken to him before, even though he was my pastor, huge church. I was like, he posted my story. Is there any way I can talk to him? And I got brought backstage. Charlie Kirk was there. I got to tell them, what had just happened to me. I was fired for being a Christian. And I looked at them and I said, I need a good lawyer. This case is going to be, I think, a big deal. And I got to win. And they both looked at each other and said, Bob Tyler, who was also here earlier, he's a chief counsel of Advocates for Faith and Freedom. And so they filed my lawsuit. We sued Harupa Unified School District. That's the district I worked for. I was a student at. I met my husband there. I was a coach, a lifeguard, swim instructor, all the things. It was my second home. And it's why I went back to teach, just to have this happen to me. So that being said, really cool thing God did in bringing my story full circle. He's done a million things, but I now work for Advocates for Faith and Freedom. I get to work for them. Thank you. Just part-time from home while I homeschool my 3 children. Another thing that I'm like, okay, God, you knew what you were doing in letting me get fired, because he knew I didn't want to put my own kids in the system that I'm seeing behind the curtain of. So just wow, I always say my jaw drops at what he can and will and has done, because I just stood for truth, his truth. I put my faith into action, and he took it from there. And it was incredible to watch, and I'm not going to say it was easy, but I will always say it was worth it, and I would 100% do it again. And I know throughout today we've heard a lot of the repercussions that come from taking a stand. I really hope and pray that doesn't discourage you. I want you to be encouraged, because when that hate and that attack comes, it's only affirmation that you are out there, you're going into the world like you've been called to do, and you're standing for truth, and you are awakening up the demons that they want us silent. The devil doesn't care if we follow Christ, as long as we do so silently and don't stand publicly and boldly in the public square. He could care less. Yeah. So be encouraged. Again, it's all affirmation, the hard times, the affliction. You're a target because they hate the truth. And when we stand for it, that's literally the worst thing in their eyes that we could do because we exposed them. Learn to smile and laugh through these afflictions because that is exactly when he is in that fire with you. Isaiah 48:10 has become one of my favorite verses. It says, "Indeed, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested and chosen you in the furnace of affliction." So affliction, we tend to look at as a bad thing. He's totally just changed my perception on that. No, affliction is where he tests me and he refines me and he chooses me. Lastly, I will add in, since we've talked a lot about union, not proud to say I was part of the union, but also kind of glad I was, because now I also have this part of my story where I can let you know the union did not represent me, did not support me, did not try to save my job. Here's what they did. When I put it all out there, where I stand, what my views are, the policies I would not follow, they said, it sounds like you should probably go apply to a more conservative district or teach at a private Christian school. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I paid you for the last 6 years for this is how you're saving my job, telling me to go get a new one? Wow. So, just, absolute proof that, and I say it all the time, as conservatives and as Christians, we have no business being in the teachers' union. And I've heard all the excuses, and I take none of them. I even hear the excuse of, well, I'm going to take them out from the inside. No, you're not. No, you're not. We need a mass exodus. Let's just all leave. And that's the best thing we can do, is get our money out of their hands. I guess lastly, I will say the gain I have experienced has been far beyond the cost of my stand. But you will never know that gain that lies on the other side of standing, that lies on the other side of the cost, unless you actually take the stand, put it all out there, be surrendered, be willing to lose your salary, your house, your reputation, your credential. Like, that all sounds really scary, and that's all what I had to mentally, emotionally deal with and putting on the line. But I did it because I realized at the end of the day, my whole hope and goal is to honor the Lord. And if that means losing my home, then that was part of his plan too. And he will take care of us and he will provide. And he absolutely has. I don't even think I told you how my lawsuit ended. Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 year later, exactly to the T, which I thought was super interesting, 360, full circle again. We come to a settlement victory on my lawsuit in May of 2024. Last year, we got Rupa to settle for $360,000, which was 3 times what they owed me since firing me. So I certainly saw it as justice and a victory because, again, 3 times what they owed me. I had only been fired for a year. And in reality, we were going to really, really be gambling if we kept pushing this through the courts here in California. And as my lawyers did let me know, we could have ended up setting bad precedents for Christian teachers. And so this was, we felt, the best thing for me to do is go ahead and settle. And that was a hard decision. I will say I really wanted to see my case go to Supreme Court and make these huge changes. I also didn't tell you one of the directives placed on me was that I had to let boys in my girls' locker room. And it was so interesting. That came up at the end of my religious accommodation meeting. They said, well, is there anything else we need to know about that you can't do in your position because of your faith? And I said, well, yeah, I'm in a unique position. It's not one like the rest of the teachers on campus. I oversee a girls' locker room. So I'll let you know now I won't be allowing a boy in it. And they said, well, we have a whole other issue then because you have to. It's California law. And so I would say that was definitely my last straw where I knew, yeah, I'm probably getting fired. I'm probably getting fired right now because how is anyone following these policies? But you know what? A lot of people aren't because half the teachers didn't know about them. I didn't know about them until students found me on social media and I had to be, put on this, sat at this table in the presence of my enemies. So it's really interesting. But I hope that today has encouraged all of you. I am here for you to reach out to and contact. Since school has started, I've gotten a call from a different teacher every week. Just, I need help. This is going on. What should I do? And that's what I'm here for, to help you stand. no matter the cost, and to let you know God will take care of you, He will provide for you, and He will honor you. When we stand for the God of truth will stand for us. Thank you.
Wow. Amazing, powerful testimony. Thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing that. We are 10 minutes behind. And so I'm the last person standing between you and Blue Agave. So I just want to do a quick, brief summary of what we've learned today. Mark taught us about the history of how did we get here, and what really convicted me about the history is that we were the ones that gave up our ground. We had this, but we couldn't keep the republic that we were given. Lorianne, the price of standing for truth. Wow, a steep price that she's still paying today, even after giving 30 years of her life to being an upstanding teacher. The other thing that we learned from that is, let's pray for Judge Benitez. Wow, the kind of rulings that this man has been making in our favor, I'm sure he's feeling the heat from out there. And so September 29th is going to be a big day. Let's pray for that day, that the ruling will be favorable, and that all of us hopefully can join that class action lawsuit. All right? Mr. Bob Tyler, you know, if a lawyer said he wanted to give up his practice in 2015, 10 years ago, and look where we are here today, 10 years later, and he's finally optimistic, oh my goodness, we should all leave this place on fire. Yes. We have the optimism. There is a huge opportunity now. And also, as we were discussing with the panel about Mahmoud, it's, I think, bigger than we thought it's going to be. And so we need to take advantage of this opportunity. Marty Trump from Gateways, you're expected to teach religion in the public school system. Did you know that? You could present the gospel, you could present theology, and then also giving us so many free resources that they're willing to ship out to you as educators. Julianne Fleischer, wow. Process, step by step, of how do you request religious accommodations, and be ready, be detailed, and just like Jessica also mentioned, use that opportunity to share the truth of Scripture. Mark came back and talked about the federal legal landscape, and I just said 2 words here: it's complicated. I don't know if you were able to follow that whole thing, that flow chart. It's definitely complicated, but it's definitely in our favor. So be bold. Jill Simonian with PragerU, oh my goodness, 1,200 free resources, digital resources you could download online and use them in K through 12. They're basically setting us all up to be able to use this stuff. David Schmus with Christian Educators. Man, they've been around for a long time. I didn't know that. 1953. Get out now. Get out now out of the union. Please. Please don't convince yourself that you can do anything different. It's an irredeemable organization. Jessica, you have given us hope that victory is possible. And with our God, all things are possible. So with that, we want to thank you for being here for the first annual PACE conference. Hopefully we can do these on an annual basis and continue to be a great resource and an encouragement for you all on the front lines. May the Lord bless you. Have a great rest of your week. Take care. And real quick, a huge shout out to some people who made all of this possible. First and foremost, Madison Minor, our executive director, and Protect Our Kids. Madison, thank you for your tireless efforts to put all of this together. Mark Schneider, our founder. This was his idea. He has a lot of ideas, and a lot of them have been so helpful for us. But also, thank you for all of the partnerships. Madison, I don't know if you can go back to the original one. Advocates for Faith and Freedom, Gateways for Better Education, Christian Educators, my goodness, the amount of time, I think it was like every other Friday, that they had spent together with Mark and Madison to plan this whole thing out, making sure that the messaging that needed to get across got across. Thank you for all of your tireless efforts in partnering on this very first conference. So thank you guys so much. Have a great week.
All right, and that is the completion of today's conference. Thank you all for joining. We do have a YouTube channel. I'd encourage you guys to go to that. Here is what it looks like. Go to YouTube for Protect Our Kids.
I will.
And may the Lord bless you guys on this year for you school teachers, and continue to look at our website, pok.org, for resources. And thank you very much. Have a great evening or afternoon wherever you're at.